graphic design world is home to many studios and agencies. It's home to industry giants such as Leo Burnett, Pentagram, and BBDO. It's also home to smaller agencies such as Grip, Bruce Mao Design, and Carmichael Lynch. Today we're introducing Agency Spotlight, where we take a deep dive into creative agencies and studios doing great work in and out of the office. Today on Agency Spotlight, we're going to look at one of those small agencies, and that agency is Studio Mosaic. Studio Mosaic is a women and black-owned studio run by Francesca, Larson, and creative director Robyn. You've likely seen their branding work with the Biden presidential campaigns, both of them, and even now the Harris campaign. Studio Mosaic's bread and butter really comes from their work with nonprofit organizations. They've merged the worlds of design and activism, showing that yes, agencies can not just survive, but thrive doing work with meaning. I'm Ziggy the designer. Design is all around us, so we might as well talk about it. The core of Studio Mosaic comes from an agency formerly known as Studio Gradients. Gradients was founded in 2021 by Robyn and creatives from the 2020 Biden-Harris presidential campaign. They started out as a subsidiary to a larger creative organization that had a strong political reputation. Gradients became known for their work with left-leaning, even progressive clients. Their branding work for the U.S. Democratic Party in 2022 gained a ton of praise ahead of the United States midterm elections. As time went on, the work for Gradients seemed to slow down, and they were acquired by Studio Mosaic, which has been around since the early 2010s. And things are starting to look up for the group. The team at Mosaic was, again tasked by the Biden campaign to design the branding for its presidential run. And we're going to take a look at that today. So let's get into it. Mosaic did the branding for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's 2024 presidential campaign, building off of the creative they delivered back in 2020. If I could describe this creative using one word, I would use the word warmth. The creative is warm. Mosaic accomplishes this by doing a few things. The first thing they do is, their use of color. There are pastels everywhere. Pastel blues and yellow own the creative. And color-wise, that's, blue and yellow, that's an unstoppable duo. Blue and yellow, it's great at communicating warmth because people associate those colors with the sky. Second is Mosaic's choice of typefaces. The type pairing here is very strong. The main typeface it's this classic serif display typeface. And when I say serif, I mean it in a way that's contemporary, that's soft. It's not like a Dido, however you say it. It's not like a Dido or a Bodoni where it feels very rigid. Mosaic's choice of serif feels like you could give it a hug and you won't get poked. The secondary typeface is this sans serif typeface. It's what I call semi-extended. It's not a regular width, but it's also not completely extended. It's semi-extended. It's sophisticated. Where we're going to see it used, mostly in bold, working mostly as a balancing element in the campaign visuals, as so they don't feel completely antiquated by that primary serif typeface. I'd say, if you could hug, if you could hug the serif typeface, then this secondary sans serif typeface is the cologne that you smell on the sweater of the serif typeface. That's how I'd put it. The third element that Mosaic uses, and this in my opinion is what really brings it home, it's the use of hand-drawn elements. Modern politics, American politics especially, it can be easy to get cynical. It can be easy for it to feel cold. What these hand-drawn elements do is bring a sense of humanity to the visuals. You can almost imagine President Biden circling and underlining elements in these graphics and these campaign visuals. And you can almost picture Vice President Harris writing, "Let's go, Joe." It makes you feel the human behind the campaign. You're not just voting for these career politicians. You're voting for humans. That's what these handwritten elements do. It makes you feel the human. Not just see this politician with decades and decades of experience. Whether you're on the left or right of American politics, I feel it's hard to deny that Studio Mosaic did a stellar job with the Biden campaign brand. And even look at the bottom of the page. All right, look, these are credits. These are team credits. Do you know how hard it is to find an agency that shows off their team? Love this. Outside of American politics, Mosaic finds meaningful work with other impact-based organizations such as Circle Care Center, an LGBTQ plus and sexual healthcare provider. The work for them is it's friendly, it's approachable. I feel like work in healthcare can feel very cold and very, very, almost sterile. This is very friendly. I love the use of color on this as well. Lambda Legal is another organization that Studio Mosaic has worked with. They're a nonprofit organization with the mission to advance the rights of LGBTQ plus people living with HIV. And I love what Studio Mosaic did here. They took something that's very structured and very rigid in the legal industry, and they made it readable. They made it approachable to someone who knows nothing about law, such as myself. And there's even With Love, Spotify's podcast highlighting female changemakers. I love this work as well by Studio Mosaic. It puts the woman in the spotlight. There's a lot of great, passionate energy in this work. I love it. So, why should we care about Studio Mosaic? You hear all of these horror stories about working agency side, right? Unpaid, mandatory overtime, toxic workplaces that may as well be nuclear meltdowns. And it seems like there is this lack of interest to improve the working conditions on agency side because, that's how it's always been done, or that's what I went through, so you have to go through it too. That's something you'll hear every senior designer or every design director say at least once on agency side. And so, we don't say that these practices are good, right? As an industry, it seems like there's a consensus that these practices are bad, and they're often spoken about badly. So how come no one is working to make a change? It would seem that Studio Mosaic is one of those few agencies actively working to make agency side a better place. From the outside in, all right, from the outside looking in, that's what it looks like. What Studio Mosaic is doing is showing other agencies that you can thrive as an agency doing meaningful work, and by breaking these toxic agency traditions. Old school agency directors aren't taking nonprofit clients like Mosaic is. And that meaningful work leads the mission at Mosaic, at the agency. Agency directors and execs just, they don't really like being politically active in their work. They want to be approachable to any client that might drop off an RFP, which is understandable. You have to make money in this industry. If you're running a business, the goal is to make money. That's how you survive. That's how you live. But that's how Havas, a large creative agency, lost their B Corp status, because they remained approachable to clients such as Shell, the petroleum giant. Your work is your voice, and your voice should stand for something. And when your voice stands for something, you can do things like, crediting your team on a public-facing case study. because your internal culture is strong, and so strong to the point that you're not really scared of your team members being poached. Mosaic is putting themselves in a position to make an impact in and out of the office, and I believe a lot of other agencies can learn from what Studio Mosaic is doing. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. That's all I have for you today. Be sure to like, follow, share. In fact, share this with that really traditional creative director you have. You know the one I'm talking about. I've been Ziggy the Designer. If there are 2 things you need to know about me, it's 1, I love design, and 2, I'm very opinionated. I'll talk with y'all later. Bye-bye.